Something enormous is moving through your life right now. So subtle, most people never notice it. It doesn't arrive like a billboard or a trumpet. It arrives like a change in the wind, cooler, thinner, rearranging the dust on your windowsill. If you pay attention, you'll realize you're not looking at small, meaningless shifts. These are the scaffolding of a new life being built around you. And if you learn to read them, you'll know exactly when to step forward. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a diving board at dusk. The water below is dark, impossible to fully see. But, somewhere beneath that surface, there's a world that will be different from anything you know now. You're already on the board. Most people never notice that they climbed up. They keep rearranging their towel, adjusting the same old routine, and miss the moment the current changes beneath their feet. But there are patterns that show up before the leap. And once you can name them, the next chapter stops being a mystery and becomes an invitation. The first thing you will notice is not dramatic. It's a pressure that grows, a low-level discontent that used to be tolerable, but now sharpens into pain. I call this phase discomfort amplification. The small annoyances become intolerable. The job that felt fine starts to feel like a cell. Friends who once fit now feel like costumes you're tired of wearing. Routines that brought comfort begin to look like cages. Most people respond the same way. Panic. Fix what's not broken. Scrub the cracks, hoping the shape of their life will go back to what it used to be. Here's the truth. That discomfort is not an error. It is a signal. Your inner life is expanding, and the old containers no longer hold it. The irritation is your consciousness outgrowing your current clothes. That is good news. Even though it feels terrible, pain is frequently the sound of growth. As the pressure builds, you enter what I call the magnetic shift. People begin appearing in your life like characters in a book you didn't write. Strangers who know things you're only beginning to understand. Acquaintances who live the life you want and seem completely ordinary to everyone else. These aren't random meetings. They are magnetic pulls, evidence that your frequency is changing and attracting elements of your next life. Pay attention to who shows up, not just the names, but the themes of their lives, the values they hold, the risks they take, the language they use when they speak about purpose. These people are previews of the community you are being invited into. It's not coincidence, it's alignment. When your inner world recalibrates, your outer world reorients to match it, then, just when you'd expect everything to clear, clarity becomes a camouflage. I call this the clarity eclipse. It is the moment when the universe does the exact opposite of what you want. She blurs the map. Decisions that once seemed obvious become riddles. Paths that look straight now fork into fog. The old logic no longer applies because you are transitioning between two systems of meaning. Your previous way of making sense of things is dissolving, but the new map hasn't finished printing. This is why so many people retreat at this stage. They take the confusion as proof they've lost their way. Don't. Confusion is a tunnel. In the dark, your sense of direction must come from something quieter than rational argument. Trust the subtle knowing that's been whispering under the noise. Intuition, soft, stubborn, and patient, starts to matter more than spreadsheets and approach lists. The way forward is less a choice and more a slow remembering. As you move through the eclipse, you'll notice time begins to play tricks. This is the acceleration phenomenon. Some days stretch like an elastic band, hours packed with creative productivity, where you complete in a morning what used to take a week. Other days slide away, foggy and protracted, where even the simplest tasks feel heavy. That uneven rhythm is not a bug. It's your consciousness operating on two timelines simultaneously, the one you've known and the one that's forming. Instead of resisting the wildness of this rhythm, learn to surf it. On the productive days, be ruthless with your attention. On the slow days, allow the space. Don't force speed where synthesis needs silence. The acceleration is rearrangement. The chaos is not chaotic for long. It's reorganizing itself into greater order, and then the confirmations arrive. I call these confirmation downloads. Suddenly, help, answers, and resources appear with the eerie timing of a script being written off stage. You'll think of a book and find it on a bench. You'll need a connection, and someone will arrive with exactly the skill you lack. The stream of information that was invisible before becomes visible because you are now aligned to receive it. The mistake most people make at this point is skepticism. We have been trained to attribute everything to luck, coincidence, or good timing. But these confirmations are not random. They are feedback. They are the universe tapping you on the shoulder saying, "Keep going." When you begin to notice them, treat them as signals, not flukes. Catalog them. They are the breadcrumbs that prove you're moving in the right direction. Then, right before the breakthrough, brace yourself for what I call the final resistance surge. This is the most dangerous phase because it is subtle and dressed as reason. Your internal voice will mobilize every argument you've ever heard about safety, prudence, and likelihood, and it will articulate them in a way that sounds convincing, more convincing than fear ever did. It will beg you to postpone, to plan more, to wait for the perfect conditions that never come. This resistance is not stupid, it's strategic. It knows how to weaponize your own wisdom to stall you. It will remind you of past failures and paint the most detailed possible picture of what could go wrong. You'll get tired for no reason, procrastinate on critical tasks, or suddenly believe everyone who doubts you. Your support system may wobble too. People who love you will ask you to slow down, not because they are against you, but because your change threatens the stability of their world. Recognize this surge for what it is, your old identity fighting for survival. Don't trust it implicitly. Respond with small acts of courage. Tiny, consistent commitments that prove to your future self that you are moving anyway. The antidote to the final resistance surge is not brute force. It's faith translated into routine. On the other side of resistance, the world seems to begin arranging itself around you. I call this the synchronicity storm. Events line up with an uncanny precision. You think of someone and they call you. You encounter the exact information you need at the exact time you need it. Opportunities appear like rooms opening one after another. It feels orchestrated because in a sense it is. You have reached a level of alignment where your internal frequency matches the frequency of the life you want. This is where decision-making stops, being an endless debate, and becomes muscular, instantaneous. You start knowing how to move because your body recognizes the terrain before your mind does. Where once you overanalyzed, you now act. Where once you sought external validation, you now let your inner compass speak and then follow. With action comes a line of small transformations that feel like practice for something bigger. I call this phase the identity bridging phenomenon. Before the external results appear, you begin to behave like the person you are becoming. You'll hold conversations differently. You'll carry yourself differently. You'll think in the language of people who have already achieved what you aim for. Not to fake it, but because your consciousness has already expanded into that possibility. This is not pretending to be someone else. It's becoming. You shift your posture, your voice, your habits. You stop chasing success and start attracting it because you match the inner blueprint to the outer reality. People begin to perceive you differently. They ask your opinion, invite you into rooms you weren't in before, and treat your ideas as if they were always their next move. Finally, everything moves faster than you can plan. I call this the momentum cascade. Doors swing open. Opportunities multiply. People who could help your journey show up, not by accident, but because you are now a node in a network that extends beyond you. The progress that used to come in increments now compounds. You realize the work you did during the discomfort, the days you showed up despite doubt, are the compound interest of this moment. At every stage, there are simple practices that help you navigate the map. Keep a signal log. Write down the confirmations, odd coincidences, and new people who enter your life. When doubt creeps in, reading that list reminds you you are on a real trajectory. Choose micro-commitments over heroic promises. Courage is a habit, not a one-time explosion. Do one small, scary thing every day. Send the email, say the thing, set the boundary. These tiny acts accumulate into unstoppable momentum. Protect your environment. As you change, your inner circle will either expand to hold you or constrict to keep you small. Be deliberate about who gets airtime in your life. Not everyone is meant to travel with you. Trust without abandoning reason. Intuition is not a replacement for thinking. It's a higher order guide that works when old logic fades. Learn the difference between a frightened mind and a wise gut. Lean into confusion as a sign you are between worlds. When the map disappears, that's the point at which new maps are drawn. Stay curious. Ask better questions. Be patient with the fog. Understand this. Transformation is not dramatic in the way movies show it. It's an accumulation of invisible investments, vulnerabilities, choices, tiny refusals to settle. It looks messy from inside because you are being unmade and remade at the same time. But there is a pattern, a cadence. Once you learn to read that cadence, fear becomes practical. Fear becomes a prompt, not a prison. So, what should you do today? Begin with small clarity. Choose one habit that supports the life you imagine and do it imperfectly, consistently. Talk to one person who seems to live in the direction you want to go. Start a signal log and write down 3 synchronicities. No matter how small, if your body tightens when you think of acting, do one thing that scares you and mark it. This is the most honest form of spiritual arithmetic. If you're sitting with restlessness, know this. The restlessness is not the enemy. It is the first honest proof that you contain more than this moment allows. If you can learn to decipher these signs, the amplification of discomfort, the magnetic arrivals, the eclipse of clarity, the acceleration, the downloads, the resistance, the storm of synchronicity, the identity bridging, and finally the cascade, you will stop mistaking chaos for catastrophe. You'll see that what felt like disintegration was actually preparation. There's a threshold ahead of you. The only real question is, will you read the map when it's handed to you in fragments? Or will you wait for a map you will never receive? Life doesn't give fanfare. It gives hints, then tests, then openings. The rare ones, the people who look back one day and wonder how it all happened, are exactly those who pay attention to whispers. They act on the small, meaningful provocations, not the loud, flattering lies. You're already on the board. The water is not as scary as your imagination makes it. The surface you fear is the same surface that, when crossed, will mirror every part of you that has been waiting to be recognized. Take a breath. Notice the tiny signals. Move one small way forward. The rest of the world will adjust to you.